All right, everybody. Um, all right. We're waiting on some people to come on here because we are now live. Y'all forgive me. I am I'm running on literally like about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep. I pulled an all-nighter last night. I had questions from different people who I was on Skype with and online chatting with, and just answering questions about Easy Lease and how it's going to work, and just a whole lot of questions, and that's understandable. Look, the reason I'm going to do there's a scheduled YouTube live at 8:15 p.m. tonight to go over the potential earnings for lease operators. Now, a lot of people are thrown off by the name when they hear Easy Lease and we say lease operators. Easy Lease, first of all, is not a trucking company. Okay, it's not a trucking company. I know it has, it's in the trucking industry, but we're not a trucking company. Easy Lease is not really a leasing company. It is really a rental company. Well, it's not. Well, Easy Lease itself is not a rental company. We manage the long-term rentals for the asset owners. Easy Lease is a peer-to-peer commercial commercial vehicle sharing platform, just like Turo, much like Uber, Lyft. Now, because of that, Easy Lease does not have the same requirements. This does not need the same credentials, does not have the same expenses, overhead, everything that's associated with running a trucking company or running a lease to purchase company when it comes to semi trucks. Because Easy Lease does not need we don't need an authority. We're not required to have an authority because we're not running anybody underneath our authority, under any such type of authority. The lease owner operators, people who are leasing or renting the trucks through Easy Lease, they have to have their own authority. They have to bring their own insurance. They have to bring their own permits, okay, plates and all that type of stuff, all their own permits. All Easy Lease does is we collect the lease payment and we manage the rent payment or the long-term rental payment each week. We collect that and we manage the whole process of, and we manage the process on behalf of, I'm sorry, I get my mic here, on behalf of we manage that process on behalf of the asset owners. Those are the owners of the trucks who post their trucks to our Easy Lease app or Easy Lease website for us to find people that will basically rent those trucks out, rent those trucks on long-term rental contracts. And it's a long-term rental contract because they can't come and rent a truck by the day. Okay, no, they have to sign up for a 6-month rental or a year rental agreement, which is much like a lease agreement. Okay, that's why we call it Easy Lease. But make no mistake about it, we are not a trucking company. Easy Lease would not be a trucking company. Would not have the expenses of a trucking company. Would not have the responsibilities. Would not have the requirements. All of the credentials, all that stuff. We don't need any of that because we're just like an Uber or a Lyft or a Turo, to be more more comparable. Hold on a second. Okay, yesterday I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Yesterday, I got some comments from a gentleman on Facebook. Okay, and I welcome look, if you're not understanding the peer-to-peer concept business model, if you're not understanding why Easy Lease is not a trucking company and why you can't compare it to a trucking company, please, by all means, send me comments, ask me questions. You can call me up. I got a toll-free number, 866-973-6445. Hit extension 1. Comes directly to my cell phone. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have or any concerns you might have about this business model. Now, I want y'all to understand something. When the gentleman who started Uber came up with that concept, they faced all types of pushback. I mean, there was all types of skepticism. A lot of people were saying, well, it's a scheme. It's a way to cheat, taxi cab companies. It's never going to work. And they got to have all these, regulations that taxi cab companies have and all this other stuff. And guess what? They didn't. Uber paved the way for Lyft. And both those paved the way for Turo. And all three of those have paved the way for Easy Lease. Because Uber went through so much legality and challenges they had to go before, SEC, and they had to go before the FCC and all these congressional things that were, because, the taxi cab companies, they lobbied against and filed lawsuits and all this other stuff. And guess what? The ride-sharing business model conformed to all legal standards. And they won, and it was ruled that ride-sharing is not the same as a taxi cab company, and therefore they don't have to adhere to all of the regulations, the rules, the requirements, the certifications, taxations, all that stuff that taxi cabs had to do. Uber didn't have to do. Because it's not a taxi cab company. No one worked for Uber. The drivers don't work for Uber. The drivers are independent automobile owners who have their own insurance. Now, Uber does, give the extra insurance, for, like this little fee that comes off of your ride share money, that you make on Uber, but they offer that on the extra insurance. But Uber does not have they didn't have to have all the same credentials and requirements and standards or even the overhead that taxi cab companies have. Because Uber owns no cars. Uber owns they own no vehicles. Uber is simply a app. That's all it is. It's an app that those two gentlemen created that allows private individuals to register their private vehicles on with the app, listed on the app, and then put it into the system where then people can download this app, attach their credit cards to it and everything, and then ping their location and request a ride going to and picking up from one location, going to another location. Now, it's understandable why a lot of people really didn't grasp the idea or really didn't grasp the concept, because, they think, well, taxi cabs do that, and that's never going to work, because taxi cabs are not going to let that happen. They're going to have all this, all this overhead and all this other stuff. But guess what? They didn't have to have any of that. And Uber is more profitable than just about all the taxi cab companies put together now. Go figure. So Uber paved the way for Lyft. Uber and Lyft paved the way for Turo. And all three of those have paved the way for Easy Lease. Okay? Easy Lease is not a trucking company. It's already been established that peer-to-peer and ride sharing is not the same as running a taxi cab company or a rental car agency, or even running a truck leasing company or a trucking company. That's already been established. That's what paves the way for Easy Lease to be able to operate just like Turo does, but instead of using personal vehicles, cars, regular on personal vehicles, Easy Lease is the peer-to-peer ride sharing for commercial vehicles. That's all it is. Easy Lease is just an app that owners of the assets of the trucks use to post their vehicles, and truck drivers who want to now become owner operators or want to now have total control of where they go, when they go, how they dispatch themselves, and who want to collect 100% of the line haul and load fees. They can come on, view the inventory of all those trucks and stuff that's posted by these private individuals who own these trucks. Sometimes there may be fleets who may post trucks on there, but Easy Lease doesn't own any of those trucks. Easy Lease is not running any of those trucks under our authority. Easy Lease is not touching any of the money that is changing hands between the load providers and the lease operator. That's one of the main things. The lease operators are paid by the brokers who have the loads listed on the load boards that they choose. The lease operators are paid by the shippers who are offering them the loads that they can go and get signed up with to run those loads. None of this money, none of that money is even touches Easy Lease app. None of that money goes through Easy Lease. The only thing that Easy Lease does is collect the rent payment, the weekly rental. That's all Easy Lease does. We collect it, then we manage that for the asset owners. Now, can we provide assistance to the drivers on finding them loads and stuff like that? Yes, just like any other dispatcher does, but dispatchers don't have to have a DOT or an MC number. So our National Dispatchers Network, if the owner operators need it, they can request that we provide dispatching for them. But that money still is not paid. That doesn't come to Easy Lease. That money goes directly to the truck driver, and the truck driver or the lease operator then pays us our 10% dispatch fee. Or we can add that to our weekly rental fee for the truck each week. But logistically, Easy Lease has nothing to do with the trucking industry. We're just an app. We're a peer-to-peer ride-sharing app, but for commercial vehicles. That's all. And therein lies the ingenious or the ability that Uber, Lyft, and Turo have paved the way for. That's what allows Easy Lease to be so much more profitable than a regular leasing company, both in terms of for the asset owners, for the lease operators, and for Easy Lease. Let me start sharing my screen because I want to go over some of these, look the screen, all screens, yep. All right. First of all, let me pull up. I'll give me a second. Let me pull up a photo here that explains to you what Easy Lease is and everything. I'm trying to pull this up. No, that's not the one. Give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up so I can show it to you all. Give me a second. No, that's not it either. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it right here. Okay. All right. Let me make sure y'all can see this. Make sure you all can see this. Let me go to make sure this is showing. Y'all give me a second. I'm on my phone. I'm trying to make sure this is showing without having to go back to the. Yeah, it's showing. All right, good. All right. As you all can see, and I hope y'all can see this clearly. Let me increase the size on this. Hope y'all can see this clearly. Okay. One of the reasons why trucking companies, not trucking companies, one of the reasons why easily will be very attractive to truck drivers, especially company drivers who are wanting to, become, lease operators or owner operators, or whatever the case may be. And another reason why a lot of people who are currently leasing with other companies are going to gravitate towards Easy Lease, because the reason why truckers want to become owner operators in the first place is they want independence. They want freedom. Okay. They want independence and they want freedom. They also want to be paid, you know, they want to make the whole amount the load fee. They don't really want to have to, split, take a 80-20 split or a 70-30 split or, or whatever the case may be. They don't want to have to pay all of those hidden fees and things at the end, at the settlement stage. Okay. And here's one of the biggest reasons that Easy Lease is going to be attractive to other trucking companies, to other drivers and people out there who want to become, owner operators or want that type of freedom, is number one, Easy Lease is going to pay them 100% of the line haul. 100%. No other leasing company, no other trucking company out there pays 100% of the line haul. Now, how can we do this? Because we don't have any of the expenses that a regular trucking company has. We don't need an authority. We don't have to pay for all those plates and tags and LEDs and all that type of stuff. Why? Because just like any other owner operator who goes out there and buys his own truck and runs his own truck, finds his own loads, they pay their own insurance. They pay their own permits, plates, and tags. They have their own authority. That's the same thing that they're going to have when they come over to Easy Lease. Now, the difference is this. Other than the 100% that's going to them for the line haul, there is no holdbacks like you do with a lot of these other lease programs. Lease program tells you that their lease is $1,500 or $1,800 or $1,900 per month or $2,000 per month. That means they're saying that it's only like $5.99, $8.99, or $8.99 per week. Okay. If a lease company has a lease payment of $3.99, $5.99, or $8.99 per week, check your lease contract, because there's something called a holdback. Because what they're doing is that's not the actual real lease payment. They're giving you that discounted lease payment that you can pay up front, but they're going to hold back 10, 12 to 15% for, on average, 10 to 15 weeks. That holdback is coming out of your line haul, the loads you run. So on top of them taking 20% of the loads you run, they're also going to be taking that 12 to 15% holdback for about 10 to 15 weeks. So that's so at the top end, that's a total of 35% that they're taking of your line haul. On top of your $3.99, $5.99, or $8.99 per week lease payment. So that lease payment is really not, that $5.99 or the $8.99. Is that plus the holdback? Plus what? Your split. So immediately, that lease payment is not really $5.99. Just off that alone, that lease payment is now well over $2,400, $2,500 a week. This is why when a lot of these truck drivers get their settlement check, they have only $1,000 after they done ran all week and gross $7,500, $8,500, $9,500, some gross over $10,000, but then they get a settlement check for what? $1,100, $1,000, sometimes $800, sometimes in the negative, depending on how they ran and the loads they ran. Okay, this is why. Now, we have no holdbacks. Okay, on top of 100% of the line haulers going to the lease operator. That's two of the biggest things right there that's going to cause a lot of truck drivers to come over and use and explore the option of easy lease. Are we going to appeal to everyone? No, we don't need to. All we need is about anywhere from a 5%, market share. That's all we really need to be extremely profitable and to be extremely successful. Okay. Another thing, no seasoning on your authority. Every lease company out there, or on an op program where you go and run underneath somebody's authority, or where you're doing some type of lease program, they want you to have at least a year seasoning, at the minimum, a year seasoning on your authority. And Easy Lease also has no seasoning on company driving experience. Just about every lease program out there requires you to have 2 years driving experience before they will accept you in their lease program, or their lease to own program, or their owner op program. We don't have that requirement with Easy Lease. Why? Because we're not a trucking company. You're simply just renting trucks just so you can be straight out of truck driving school, get your authority, get your insurance, get your permits, tags, and plates, and come over and get a truck from Easy Lease. Now, are you going to own that truck? No, we're not a lease to purchase. That's another reason why we have less expenses to the driver of that truck or the lease operator. We're not a lease purchase. You're not buying the truck. That's why you don't have the holdback. That's why you don't have the split. You're not buying the truck. Like our thing says here, why lease to own when you can lease to make money instead? Okay, you're not buying the truck, so you don't have a split. 20% of your load fees is not going to the leasing company or the trucking company because you're buying that truck from them. 15% of your load fees is not going to a holdback because they gave you this ridiculously low weekly lease payment. Okay? You don't have those hidden fees. And you don't need seasoning. You don't need to be with a company for 2 years or be driving for a company for 2 years to come over and start using Easy Lease and running out there on your own, making your own money, booking your own loads, the whole 9 yards. Giving you all the freedom that you were seeking to begin with when you decided you wanted to become an owner operator, when you decided you wanted to become a lease operator, when you decided you wanted to leave that company driving position. Is it for everyone? No. It doesn't have to be for everyone. Another one, freedom to self-dispatch. I've researched over 128 leasing companies over the last 2 years. And when I'm looking at those ads and stuff that they're putting out, when I look at the comments on Facebook, on X, which used to be Twitter, on Instagram, on now also Tribal. When I look at those comments, this question always comes up: can I self-dispatch? And invariably, almost 90% of the time is no. You have to dispatch the loads that we send you on. The other 5 to 10% says, well, yeah, you can self-dispatch, but it's got to be approved by us. Those loads got to be approved by us. Well, that's not independence. That's not freedom. Because Easy Lease is not a trucking company. Easy Lease doesn't have anything to do with the money that's being paid directly to you by the load providers, the shippers, the brokers, those type of things. Easy Lease has no say-so in whether you pick your own loads or not, because it's not coming through us. There's nothing that needs to be approved by us because it's not coming through us. You're finding your own freight like any other full-fledged owner-operator would. Complete independence, complete freedom, and authority and autonomy to find and run your own freight. Okay, to find and run your own freight. You don't need to ask our approval for you to go and find your own loads. That money's not passing through us anyway. Even if you decide to let us dispatch for you, you opt let us dispatching and we're charging you 10% of the load fee, that money still doesn't come through us. We're just finding the load for you, sending it over to you. You grab it, run it, they pay you directly, then you pay us our weekly lease along with the dispatch fee. You pay the invoice that we send you, for the dispatching service part of it, 10%, which means you still keeping 90% of your line haul. Now, there's no one out there right now that can tell me that this is not going to be attractive to a good portion of the market. Company drivers, people coming straight out of truck driving school who don't want to go to these companies that's only paying 20-some cents a mile, 30-some cents a mile, 18 cents a mile, 40-some cents a mile, being on forced dispatch, not being able to go home or take your home time when you want to, not wanting to go up in the mountains and drive in the snow and on the ice, not wanting to do that. Come on. Easy Lease is really a no-brainer. And it's because of Uber, Lyft, and Turo that Easy Lease is able to do this and able to exist. And invariably going to be able to thrive because they've already paved the way for it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know why someone else hasn't come up with the Turo business model for commercial vehicles, peer-to-peer ride sharing for commercial vehicles. I don't know why no one's come up with it, but I had 3 of my vehicles on Turo, made great money with them. My personal vehicle, you list your luxury cars with Turo, and it's there on the site, and people go to the app, and then they see your car. You're in Tallahassee. There's a football game going on in Tallahassee. Oh, well, let me rent that Jag. That Jag was rent for $90 a day. Let me grab that for about 5 days. They do it. It pulls up. I accept it. The money goes into my account. They come pick it up. They provide proof of their insurance, right on the app, and copy the driver's license, all that right on the app. We meet. They pick it up. I've got a tracker, a kill switch on the car just in case. I can monitor it on the app. All that stuff I can monitor it, where the car is. All that type of stuff. If they're late in dropping it off or they're not dropping it off, I can do what? Doop. I can hit the kill switch, disable the engine, tracker. Turo then sends the recovery truck to do what? Go pick it up, bring it back to me. That's all. That's Easy Lease is just the management firm for the app, for the service. That's it. We're not a trucking company. We're not a truck leasing company. We're not. We're not. We're a ride-sharing management firm, a ride-sharing app. That's all Easy Lease is. That's all Easy Lease is. Okay? Easy Lease warranty included. We've made agreements with 2 warranty companies that will provide warranties for the trucks. Because they're not our trucks, they're owned by individuals. These are not brand new trucks, so quite naturally, you're going to want to have a warranty on them. Easy Lease 24/7 roadside assistance. We can include that. It's already built in. Easy Lease maintenance plan is included. None of these things require us to have our authority. None of these things require us to be a trucking company. Does a semi-truck dealership, do they have authority? No, because they're not actually running the truck. They're just selling the truck. Can you lease a truck from a semi-truck dealership? Yes. Do they need an authority? No. Are they collecting the freight payments and then paying the person who leased the truck from them? No, of course not. They have nothing to do with that. Easily, same thing. We have nothing to do with that. So all of the concerns that you all are about to see from this gentleman who sent me some comments on Facebook, and let's get to that. All of these comments that you all are about to see, I'm going to address them one by one. All right. This is a post that I had posted on Facebook, little live I did, last night, kind of talking about, Easy Lease and, how it's going to help drivers make more money and kind of get just a little brief little of the business model. Okay. This gentleman, Mr. Long, okay, and I tagged him, so I don't know if he wants to show up and ask questions. He can, but if he wants to ask questions or participate in this conversation, he can. He felt the need to participate extensively through the comments here on Facebook. So I tagged him and said, hey, look, I'm going live. If you want to come and address these questions in person, feel free to do so. So first out, he says, your math is not working. If 1.25% of the company becomes worth $705 million, then your company will be worth $5.6 trillion. You plan to do that in 3 years with a couple of hundred trucks and making 10 to 12 million a year? Okay, first of all, let's answer that question. Okay. 1.5% of the company is not the same as your shares. That's what determines the number of shares you have once we finish with the seed capital funding round. That's the very first funding round where regular individuals can participate in the formation of the company. They can invest to help form the company. Okay, that's the only time that the SEC allows regular people who are not accredited investors to invest in a company to start that company. That's why it's the startup phase. And those people that invest in the company at that point, they become owners of the company. Depending on how much they invest and depending on how much the founders, myself, are giving up in ownership of the company, in my case, I'm giving up 40% of the company for a $200,000 pre-seed funding round. Okay, so if you put in a whole $200,000, you have 40% of the company. If you put in $100,000, you have 20% of the company. So and so on and so on. At the lowest level, we have a $6,250, where you get 1.25% of the company. That's your percentage of ownership. Now, what he's talking about, the 700 million, that comes from the shares that we create. The SEC allows us, after we have raised the capital that we were seeking in that pre-seed funding round, we were now able to file our articles of incorporation. In other words, officially form the company. And those people that participated in the raising of that capital, they each have their prospective ownership shares in the company, but they own a percentage of the company. Someone who invested $6,250 at the lowest level, they own 1.25% of the company. Now, when we create those shares, and the SEC says we can create pretty much as many shares as we like, it is typically done. Typically companies create no more than 1 billion shares after the startup phase. Okay. Why so many shares? Because they have to have enough shares to give to the owners of the company for their investment based on the percentage of the company that they own. And they have to have enough shares left over to offer in the seed funding, not the pre-seed. That's what it's for the owner. But now the seed funding, Series A seed funding, B, C, and D. All of those series are for accredited investors. Money management firms, hedge funds, venture capitalists, angel investors, people who have a net worth of more than $1.5 million, people who make as a single person more than $200,000 per year, as a couple more than $300,000 a year, who have a certain criteria within their community, things like that. Those are called accredited investors. The SEC says that only accredited investors can invest in the second seed funding, Series A, B, C, and D. Only they can invest. So those other 200 million shares or whatever it is, because what we plan on doing is after the pre-seed funding round, we file our articles of incorporation, we will create 500 million shares with 60% of those shares going to the owners. So that's 300 million shares that's going to go to the owners. If you own 1.25% of the company, that means you get 3,750,000 shares for your $6,250, which means you got those shares at about 0.0016 cent, 16th of a cent per share, less than a penny, less than a quarter of a penny, 16th% of a penny is what you got those shares for. Now, because you have those 3.7 million shares, now you got to go through all these series of other funding, and the business is now running because the money you raise in that early seed capital round, that pre-seed capital round, you're using that to do your marketing, using that to do your social media marketing, your regular television marketing, things like that. Develop your app, get your app put together so you can start doing business and bringing in clientele, bringing in the people who are going to be listening to trucks, bringing in the people who are going to be renting those trucks, and you're doing business. Now, as you're doing business over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, you're also conducting other seed funding rounds. Your official seed funding, your Series A, B, C, and D seed funding round to get more money. Now, where are you getting that money from? Remember that 500 million shares, 300 million went to the owners. The other 200 million is for those individuals who are accredited investors, so they can now buy those shares. These are all called unregistered shares because you are a privately owned company. You're not a public company yet. You're not a publicly traded company. You are a privately held company, which means the shares that you have with your owners and the shares you are now distributing to accredited investors. The SEC says that only accredited after the pre-seed funding round, only accredited investors can purchase non-registered shares of a privately held company. That's how it works, people. So if you were in the early stage and you got your 3,750,000 shares, and we said, okay, well, if the company does great, during that 3, 4, 5, 6 years, which he said 3 years. I never said anything about 3 years. I said, during the course of those seed funding rounds, which could be as little as 3 years, but it could take up to 5, 6, 7 years to get through those seed funding rounds before you try to register and submit your application to register your IPO, initial public offering. So we got another 200 million shares that we are now, able to sell to who? Accredited investors, hedge funds, money management firms, venture capitalists, capital banks, things like that. Those people. And those people they're going to pay considerably more money for those shares than your owners did. Your owners get the shares for like pennies on a dollar. They getting like pennies. I mean, they literally getting it for penny stock. That's why it's like 0.0016th of a cent is what you got those shares for, because you were in the initial round where the owners are forming the company. Okay. Now these people, venture capitalists and all these, these accredited investors, they're going to pay a little bit more premium price for those unregistered or non-registered shares. We may have a hedge fund or a bank or an angel investor or a venture capitalist firm. They may come in and say, look, you got 200 million shares. We'll take 10 million shares for, for $15 or $20 million, which means they're getting them for $2 a share. Or we'll take 10 million shares for $10 million, which means they're getting them for $1 a share. That's still a lot more money than what your owners pay for those shares, than what they got those shares for. So we can go through those series rounds to sell off those other 200 million shares. Once we do that, and during that course of those years, the company's making money. Now, I did say that within the second year, we should be in a position where we can go out and buy 100 trucks or 133 trucks. Well, as you can see here in his comments, he mentioned that you can't do that, in 3 years and only, 130. That's just in the second year. Because remember, you got about 5 or 6 years you got to go through before you get to the IPO. So if we're able to buy 133 trucks within the second year, and we're making money on those trucks, and we're, tripling up on our revenue, that means each year we can purchase the same amount of trucks. So naturally, by the time we hit the 5 or 6 years, we got way more than 133 trucks that we actually own ourselves, that we still don't have to be a trucking company because we're not having anybody to run under any type of authority, because we don't need an authority to own trucks. We don't need an authority to own trucks and then rent those trucks out through our Easy Lease program. The only difference is now we are the owners of the asset, but we still don't need an authority, because we still have people who are going to be renting those trucks and bringing their own authority, their own insurance, and their own permits. We are still just a ride-sharing company, but now we're just sharing our own rides. You don't need an authority to go out and buy a semi-truck. If you ain't driving it, if you ain't operating it, you don't need an authority. So we don't have, even though we may wind up in 5, 6 years with, 1,000 trucks, much like a JB Hutt, as he says here, much like a JB Hutt, where he says, let's put that into perspective, where he said, 5 trillion, you plan to do that in 3 years with a couple of hundred trucks. No. The second year, we're going to be able to get probably a couple of hundred trucks. Over the course of the next 5, 6 years, we're going to be picking up that many trucks each year, which is going to give us a couple of thousand trucks. So let's get it straight. Okay, let's get it straight. We're not doing it with a couple of hundred trucks. We may very well, in 5 or 6 years, have half as many trucks as JB Hutt does, 20 or 30,000 trucks, depending on how successful we are with renting those trucks out. And the revenue that we're bringing in, we're using that revenue to purchase more and more assets. So let's get it straight. We're not basing that on a couple of hundred trucks. We're basing that on the first, going into the second year, we should be able to buy 133 trucks. And every year after that, we should be able to do that, if not double that each year. So our inventory is going to compound exponentially from year to year. Okay? So now, as he says, let's put that into perspective. JB Hutt has been in business for 60 years. They have 13,000 trucks on the road and over 200,000 assets in motion at any given time. They're one of the largest carriers in the country. They're valued at $18 billion. You plan to be almost 300 times that size in 3 years? No. But we very well could be that size in 5 years or 6 years, like I laid out, and not 3 years. And we're definitely going to be more profitable. Why? Because we don't have the overhead, we don't have the expenses, we don't have to have the same credentials, we don't have to abide by the same, regulations as a JB Hutt, because JB Hutt is a trucking company. Easy Lease is not a trucking company. So you're trying to compare Easy Lease to something that Easy Lease is not. Obviously, you have misclassified our business model. We are a peer-to-peer ride-sharing platform like Turo and Uber and Lyft. Turo has only been in business for about 4 years, and they've been profitable since day one. Day one. They just recently, in the last 3 months, filed their application to register for their IPO in under 4 years. And I think their valuation, they're already somewhere close to, close to, they're in the billions already as far as their valuation through the SEC. Now, why were they able to get to that point in such a short time and make profits from day one, to be profitable from day one, versus with a regular rental car agency? They're not nearly that profitable because they're not a rental car agency. They're a peer-to-peer ride-sharing company. They just manage privately owned vehicles for the owners of those vehicles through the use of their app. They don't have near the expenses. They don't have near the overhead. They don't own any inventory. And people in trucking, it's hard for them to understand anything other than trucking. So when they see anything that has the word trucking in it, or has semi trucks on it, or dealing with semi trucks, they immediately think, well, it's a trucking company. It's a trucking company. It has to have an authority. They've got to, get the tags and plates and permits, the LEDs. They've got to do all this stuff. They got to pay all this insurance. They've got to, no, we don't. Because Uber, Lyft, and Turo has shown the world that there's a better way to do it. It's already been proven. They've gone through all the legal arguments. They've been certified that peer-to-peer ride-sharing companies are not the same as those companies that operate in the traditional format. Okay? Then he goes into saying the average truck is generating approximately $2 per loaded mile right now. Even if the truck had no empty miles and ran 3,000 miles a week, they'd make $6,000. After fuel, they'd have about $4,000. Okay, there's a flaw in your math. Okay, your math is not working because you're generalizing what owner operators can run. I get it. I understand. You're in the trucking industry, and you're probably a company driver or something like that, or you've been a company driver for a while, and then that type of stuff. So that's all you know. Then he says, then they'll have your $2,400 a week payment. Okay, well let's look at that. Let's go to a load board. Not even a very expensive load, but it's just a regular old load board, direct freight. Okay, let's look in Florida. We're in Florida, looking at loads in Florida, the state where everybody says you can't make no money. Let's just look in Florida. We're in Florida, and we're going to click on estimated rate per mile. We're going to pull up all the loads that have the highest rate per mile first. Now, when I was an owner operator, because I kind of know this game because I've been in trucking, I've driven trucks for Covenant Transport. I was an owner operator. My first year as an owner operator, I grossed $541,000. Let me repeat that. $541,000. My first year as an owner operator. That's a hell of a lot more than $4,000 a week. I promise you. And this is exactly how I did it. Okay? Because if you are savvy about knowing how to run your own truck, which most owner operators are, this is why company drivers want to become owner operators. This is why they want that independence. This is why they want to be able to pull loads and get 100% of their load fees and all this type of stuff. So as an owner operator, me taking 100% of my load fees, guess what? I was able to make money. Why? Because I knew how to run a truck. All right. So if you come in Florida, in the state that no one says you can make money, but that's the only state I ran in that year and made $541,000 running strictly in Florida. And the way I did that is I went through looking for and I'm just looking at loads on the load board. And I may call my Warner broker or somebody like that and find loads. But what I was looking for is short mile runs, because any Experienced owner operator knows that if you're running short mile runs, you're getting higher per mile rates. Let me repeat that. Any savvy owner operator knows if you're running short mile runs, you're getting higher per mile rates. And you can run more short mile runs than you can run a long run. In a long run, you're running, 1,100, 1,500, 2,000 miles. It takes you a couple of days just to make the run, and you probably getting less than $2 per mile. You're probably getting like $1.50, $1.60 per mile. Yeah, it looks like you're making a lot of money, but you're really not, because it's taking up 2 whole days just to make that one run. In some cases, if you're running more than 2,000 miles, it's taking you almost all week to make that one run. So on paper, it looks like you made about $4,000, but it took you all week. And because you ran those old miles, you got a higher fuel charge. You didn't make any money. But if you're running short mile runs, like say for instance here, and what I'm looking for is runs that repeat, short mile runs that repeat, picking up, going to the same place. That's a great indication that those are dedicated runs. So I'm looking at from Lake City to Gainesville, Lake City to Gainesville, Lake City to Gainesville, and looks like here it's running on the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd. So it's running every day. There it is, and there they are again. Lake City to Gainesville, Lake City to Gainesville, Lake City to Gainesville, Lake City to Gainesville. All 45-mile runs, short runs. They're all paying around $7.11 per mile. Short runs, $320 per run. I can run this Lake City to Gainesville for $320. It's only, 45 miles, which means I can run it in about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. I still got another 8 hours that I can run. So I can actually run another load. I can find something from Gainesville, because I'm running to Gainesville. I can go ahead and grab this load from Gainesville going to Tampa. Right? Gainesville to Tampa, that load is paying $5.77. That's $750. Right? Then I can find me a load running from Tampa going back towards Lake City. And if that one is paying, $300, $400, $500, guess what? I ran 3 loads for a total of what? I ran 3 loads for a total of $320 plus $750 plus $500. I ran those 3 loads, and I haven't used up all of my runs, all of my time for the day. I made $1,570. And guess what? Because that last load runs me back to Lake City, I can pick up the next day load run from Lake City and do it all over again, the same 3 loads. 5 days per week. Run those same 3 loads 5 days per week. That times 5 days, I made $7,850 in those 5 days. And because they ran short run loads, I didn't spend $1,600, $1,700, $2,000 on fuel. I spent less than $800 on fuel, probably. Look, I spent less than $800 on fuel. So if I take out that $800, I'm still looking at $7,050. Now, if I've got a maintenance plan or whatever that, I'm paying that on my own, that's fine. But you're saying that because of the way we're running and everything, but you got your own insurance. If you're paying your insurance is usually somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000, per year, which is about $100 per week. Maybe something like that, $100 per week, or not even that. You're paying the insurance $1,000 a year. No, about $100 to $150 per month. At the most, $300 per month, your insurance, which is about $75 per week. Okay, on your insurance. So you take out that minus 75, you're still looking at over almost $7,000 that you got. So we took out our fuel, we took out our insurance. Let's say if you're paying a maintenance plan, let's say even if you're paying $100 a freaking week for the dog on maintenance plan, which you ain't gonna pay no $100 a week on a maintenance plan, you're gonna pay more like $30 to $40 per week. So let's say $50 per week, on a maintenance plan. That right there. Now you say that when we take out the $2,400 from our easy lease plan, they ain't got no money left. Well, guess what? If this person was on our easy lease plan, running the way I ran just in Florida, and we're looking at a right now live load board. I'm not talking about dedicated freight that you're getting from a shipper. I'm not talking about dedicated freight that brokers have. They have good paying loads. I'm talking about just looking on a freaking load board here on a Saturday at 4:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You take our average lease, our average weekly rental minus $2,400. You're looking at $4,500 take home. Show me a lease company right now with all of its stuff that they're charging you. All of the, let's look at it. With all of the stuff that you're getting charged with the lease company, show me a lease company where you can run like that and bring home more than $1,500 at the end of the week. The reason why you can't do that, because some hidden fees that can come with leasing a semi-truck include administrative fees. These can be added to the monthly payment or to the weekly payment. Acquisition fees, these can be added to the monthly payment or the weekly payment. Disposal fees, these can be added to the monthly payment. Mileage overage charges, these can be charged at a rate of 10 to 20 cents per mile. I've seen most cases where it's 30 cents per mile if you go over that mileage limit, and they're only limiting you to about 650, 700 miles a day. Well, some are less than that. They limit you to about 300, 400 miles a day. Then you got your lease end charges. These can be impacted by damage or mileage discrepancies. Then you got your maintenance fees that they're charging if not included in the lease. Maintenance fees can cost up to $10,000 per year. Unexpected charges. These charges can include things like excess mileage charges, damage charges, and early termination fees. To avoid these charges, it's important to understand the terms of the lease and take care of the vehicle during the course of the agreement. Well, see, this is why these look, people, this is why with Easy Lease you can make more money. For one thing, you have complete control of your truck, of the truck that you're leasing or the truck that you're renting. You're getting 100% of the line haul. You have the independence to run the freight you want to run. So you can go to load boards and find loads like this and grab those, loads that run every day that's running short runs. You can run those type of loads. Now, if you on a lease to purchase and the company is telling you what loads to run, they are quite naturally, they want to send you on them long haul runs because they make money, but you're going to give up most of your money. Of course, yeah, that's what they want to do. Easily, we don't care if you run short runs. We don't care. We want you to run short because we want you to make money. In fact, if you choose to use our dispatch service, we will then employ this same strategy in finding you a bunch of short run that you can run and find you loads that's connecting so you can run, and that last load leads you back to the load that you started with that's running 5 days a week, so you do it all over again the next day and for the rest of the week. Now, a lot of you probably say, well, Calvin, how did you do $541,000 your first year? This is how. I ran a load, and I got 2 of these loads from a Warner broker. Coca-Cola bottling company right here in Tallahassee. The Coca-Cola plant right here in Tallahassee. The distribution plant where I live at. Okay? He was able to find me, a load that ran 5 days a week from right here in the location of Tallahassee, which was literally less than a mile. It was like I could park my truck at the Coca-Cola distribution parking lot, and my apartment at that time was like not even a quarter of a mile away. So I was basically park my truck there and drive there and grab my truck, back it up, 4:45 in the morning, get it loaded, and it ran from Tallahassee to Live Oak, 39 miles. 39 miles. So that's 39 miles, and that 39-mile run paid I think it was like $5.50 or $5.45. So I'm 45. 39-mile run. That's what it paid. Okay. When I got there, right, I actually asked, I called back to the no. I actually asked the people who unloaded me, asked them, do y'all have any runs that's either going back to Tallahassee or going, somewhere close by? They said, yeah, we got you can pick up a load of bottled water right here, just in the same, chute, in the same dock, and we'll load you up with a load of bottled water, and it's going to the place called it was 79 miles away. It was going to God, I cannot remember. Oh man, it was going to it's going to come to me in a second. This has been some years ago, but it was going to it was only 79 miles away, heading like down just past Jacksonville. I cannot think of the name of it. A B C D E F G H I J K L. I cannot MNOPQ. I cannot think of the name of it. But anyway, it was going 79 miles. And that load was paying $890. 79 miles, $890. About $12 a mile. Okay. I actually had to call the Warner broker to get him to book that load for me because it was a Warner load also. So I called back to my same Warner broker and said, hey, they said they got a load leaving from here going down to I cannot think of the name of it, but it was. He said, "Yeah, we got that load." He said, "Okay, since I'm here, and can you book me on that load?" He said, "Sure." Went and booked that load for me. I got it, ran it 79 miles. It was $875 or something like that, $875. So that plus the $875, $1,420. So now I need to get back to Tallahassee because I got, picked my load up, the next morning, right? So I asked the guy, I said, is there any way I can get a load that's going back to Tallahassee? The guy says, yeah, there's a Coca-Cola plant about, just down the hill, less than a mile. They probably got some loads going back to Tallahassee. I said, okay, cool. Went down there. Guess what? They had a load going back to Tallahassee, 104 miles. 104 miles going back to Tallahassee. And guess what it was paying? It was paying $1,200. $1,200. So I got, no, I actually was paying more than that. It was 104 miles going back to Tallahassee. It was paying like, let me see here. I think it was paying like, it was paying almost $1,400. No, it was paying like $1,200. It was like $1,275 or something like that. So that plus $1,275, that's $26.95 per day. And then I called my Warner broker back and said, hey, look, since I'm running this Coca-Cola load every day, can I run going from Live Oak to I can't think of the name of the place. Can I run that one every day? And I can run that one, the Coca-Cola run back to Tallahassee. He said, sure, because you live in Tallahassee, you're in the area. You want to run those loads, we'll put you on that load. And as long as you show up there on time every morning, they're your loads. Those were the only loads I ran for that entire year. I ran those loads, $26.95 per week. No, per day, I'm sorry, times 5 days a week, off every weekend, home at the end of every day. $13,475 per week. Okay. And can that still be done? Yes, it can be, but you got to know how to run a truck. You can't do that being told when to go, where to go, what you can run, what you can't run, how much you can get paid. You can't do that with these other lease companies because they don't allow you the freedom to find those loads and to run that freight without having to seek their approval. You can't run how you want to run. It defeats the whole purpose of becoming an owner operator. The whole reason why drivers want to become owner operators is independence. It's independence. That's the whole reason why drivers want to become owner operators is independence. Now, after my fuel, and my other expenses and taxes, that's how I was able to grow $541,000. That's how I was $541,000. Because you take out your fuel, for those runs, I had a maintenance, had maintenance on my truck, things like this and that. But and my regular expenses and taxes. So yeah, for that year I made $541,000. And that was my first year running my own truck. And the reason why I was able to do that, because I were not being told where I could run, what loads I could grab, and how to run, and where and when to run. This is the freedom that Easy Lease is going to give drivers. That's one of the reasons why it's going to be a game changer. That's one of the reasons why it is going to be a game changer. And that's one of the reasons why all the stuff that he's talking about here does not apply to Easy Lease. Because Easy Lease is not a trucking company. We're just a management firm for ride sharing. We're not a trucking company. We don't have the same, expenses. Okay, we don't have that. As y'all can see here from our responses, and I was telling him, in 4 to 6 years when the company goes public, not 3 years like he had claimed, okay, which I responded to him. In the pre-seed funding stage, non-accredited investors are allowed to invest in a startup. 1.25% is the ownership percentage for the pre-seed investment of $6,250. After the pre-seed round, the SEC states we can then execute our articles of incorporation, at which time we are allowed to create non-registered shares to be distributed to the principal owners, the principal/owners of the company, at which time we'll create 500 million shares, with 60% of those shares going to the prospective owners based on their percentage of ownership. 1.25% of the company of 300 million shares equals shares at 60% of 500 to 300 million, which is 60% of the 500 million shares that we create, is going to be 3.75 million shares, 3,750,000 shares. In 4 to 6 years, not 3 years, as he misquoted me just saying, when the company goes public and is ready for the IPO, initial public offering, at which time the SEC will assign a valuation and value to the company's IPO shares the general public can buy. If the projected valuation is great, he failed to mention that part, where I said if the projected valuation of the company is great, and being $188 a share, the owners will 1.25% of the company who own 3.7 million shares. Those 3.7 million shares times $188 per share equals $705 million in net worth. That's how we come up with the $705 million. I didn't say that the company will. I said that if we get a great evaluation. Now, but even if we don't get a great evaluation, even if it's only $55 a share, which is like mediocre when it comes to an IPO, that's that person, people who have those who only invested $6,250, their 3,750,000 shares is going to be worth $205 million. Oh, well, so yeah, 705, 205. What's the difference? When you talk about hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Let's go in further than that. Let's get even worse than that. Let's say we get a valuation of only $20 on a share. Your $6,250 is still gonna give you a net worth of $75 million. And I'm gonna do one even worse than that. Let's say it's only $1 a freaking share. We get a piss poor evaluation, And we only worth $1 a share off of the IPO. Your 3,750,000 shares you spent $6,250 for is now going to be worth what? $3,750,000. So what's your point? What's your point? I mean, no matter how it turns out, if we're doing what we're supposed to do as a company, and I've already shown you how easy Lease is going to attract drivers because they're going to be able to make more money. They're going to have more control. They're going to be able to run where they want to run, how they want to run, grab the loads they want to run. They're going to be able to keep 100% of their load fees. And we're just a management firm, so we won't have the overhead the trucking companies have. We won't have to have these, the same type of authorities or credentials. Why? Because Uber, Lyft, and Turo have already paved the way for that. Now, I went on to say, don't feel bad. Most people don't have a full understanding of federal seed funding regulations and requirements. That's why I take the time to educate. And then to answer his question on, about, the trucking companies and $1,500 a month plus 20%. Look, Kenny, your current lease programs, the one that he talking about by JB Hutt, your current lease program, $1,500 a month is what he said it was. But he failed to mention, plus they're taking 20% of the line haul. Plus, they're taking an additional 12 to 15% on holdback for 15 weeks. Plus, hidden fees for maintenance plan, roadside assistance, warranty, and let's not forget, they're taking 30 cents per mile for overage on allowed miles. No, my friend, our program will allow lease operators to take home on average $4,500 plus weekly. Okay. And then he goes, but Calvin, most trucks are barely breaking $4,500 gross in this freight market. That's because they're being told where to go and what freight they have to run. They don't have any control over what they grab. If you had control, if you could choose your own freight, why would you go to a load board and choose freight that's paying $1.50 when you got all these loads that's paying? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is on a Saturday. What do you think it is on a Monday morning at 5 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning? Oh my God. Come on, people. I mean, drivers talking about they can't make no money. That's because they have no control. That's why they can't make money. They're being told what to run. They're being shovel issued freight by the lease companies that they're leasing on and the trucking companies that they're running on the authority for. They have no authority to choose and run their own freight. That's why they're barely making $4,500 before they start taking out expenses. By the time they take out all the expenses, that's why they're only grossing about $1,100. Oh, I'm sorry, netting about $1,100 at the end of the week. All the operators who know how to run freight, who grab their own freight, they ain't doing no $4,500. I can tell you that for a fact. They're doing $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, $15,000 a week. Only the owner operators are these drivers that fall for these lease programs, these current lease programs, lease to purchase programs. Yeah, they barely making $4,500 before any fees, take out, lease payment, anything comes out. But see, that's what Easy Lease is going to do. Easy Lease is going to give that segment of the industry the opportunity to be completely independent and only have a lease payment that they make to Easy Lease, or that rent payment, weekly rent payment that they make to Easy Lease. All other aspects, they are just like the owner operator who comes up with money to go out and get a truck financed through the bank, through lines of credit, and they have their own truck, they have their own authority. They don't have to, run on nobody else's authority. They're out there making money. Why? Because they have control. They have independence. And that is the real draw of Easy Lease. So if you ask me why people are going to gravitate to Easy Lease, that's why. There's your reason. There's your reason. Because I'm looking at a load board, not even a DAT or a trucker's path. And I'm looking at a freaking direct freight, a $39 a month load board. And I'm looking at hundreds of loads that are over $3 per mile on a Saturday evening at 5:01 p.m. But you're trying to tell me about what drivers are barely making. Yeah, because those drivers don't have any control over what they run. Because I guarantee if those drivers could come here and pick these loads, and this is in Florida, the state where y'all say nobody can make any money. Oh my God. Seriously? Seriously. All right. I can go through the rest of this, but the rest of this stuff is just him, being disrespectful, and because I'm pointing out all the facts and showing him how Easy Lease is not a trucking company and how we're basically benefiting from the path that was paved by Uber and Lyft and by Turo, and he's still trying to tell me that, well, you're a trucking company. No, we're not a trucking company. And then he goes to saying that, with some type of scheme. He just starts getting salty there. All right, he just really starts trying to insult me because, and I'll read to it. So he says, so they can lease these trucks and take them to any company. Okay. No. They can't take them in the company because they don't own the trucks. They are renting the trucks by the week to run their own loads. Because remember, if they take them to a company, that means they don't have an authority. But they have to have an authority in order to participate in the Easy Lease. So why would they take it to another company if they have their own authority? Duh. The reason why you go to a company to run under a company is because you don't have an authority. You're running under that company's authority. Okay. How do you not get that? Okay. So that little comeback made no sense whatsoever. And then he goes, well, no, you make them run under your authority. Why? We don't want to do that. We don't want to have all that responsibility and all, the expenses of having your own authority and all that type of stuff. We don't need to run underneath our authority because we're not running a trucking company. All they need to do is just pay the weekly rental, which we manage for the asset owner. And since they have their own authority, they can find their own loads, run their own loads, just like I just did on the load board, direct freight. Finding great loads here in Florida, hundreds of great paying loads on a Saturday. The whole purpose is to give them the freedom and the independence. And then he goes, you make them run under the authority, aka a trucking company. Well, see, you're still trying to make us a trucking company. We are not a trucking company. I don't know what it's going to take for you to get there, because this is a problem. A lot of people in trucking, they only understand trucking. He obviously has not grasped the concept of peer-to-peer ride sharing. JB Hunt has a lease program as well. You won't be able to compete with that if you buy $45,000. Why not? You know what? You can buy a whole bunch of nice $45,000 trucks, 2 and 3 year old trucks that we can rent out, and people can make $7, $8, $9, $10, $12, $15,000 a week on. And they pay us our little average $2,400 a week in the lease or the rental payment, and they still walking away with in some cases $10, $7, $8, $9, $10,000 at the end of the week after paying their fuel and everything, and they're completely independent. Run what they want, when they want to run, go home when they want, whole freaking 9 yards. And then he goes back to the 3-year thing again, especially in just 3 years. No, we're talking 5 to 6 years. Okay. And then he goes on to say, this is what he gets insulted. I'm sorry, this all sounds like a scheme to get people to send you $62.50. Well, I'm not just trying to get people to invest $62.50. I'm trying to get people to invest $12,500. I'm trying to get people to invest $25,000. I'm trying to get people to invest $100,000. So, I'm not cheap. Okay, Easy Lease is not cheap. It's not for, it's not a, Walmart. We're not doing bargain shopping prices here. So if you're gonna insult me right. Okay. If you're going to insult me and the business model, do it as justice and insult it. No, we're trying to get $100,000. We're trying to get a total of $200,000. Get it right, not $6,250. We're trying to get a total of $200,000 for 40% ownership of the company. If someone can come up with just $6,250,000, they're going to get 1.25% share of the company, ownership share. And when we create those 500 million shares, they're going to get 1.25% of 60% of those shares, which is $3,750,000. They're going to make their dividends, collect their dividends earnings over the course of 5 to 6 years while we're building the company, expanding the company, growing the company, generating revenue. And then when and if we get to the IPO stage, the shares that they own is going to make them multimillionaires. Even if it's just a freaking dollar a share, they're going to be worth over $3 million, almost $4 million. So get it right. And so I go on to say, look, so Turo is a scam, or Uber and Lyft scheme. So Turo is a scheme. So is Turo a scheme or Uber and Lyft schemes? Of course not. But people who couldn't understand the ride share and peer-to-peer business models tried to label them as such. Okay. You know how much drawback Turo faced and Uber faced when they first came out? Because people just didn't get it. They had the same type of mentality that this gentleman had. Well, it can't be that way because it's been done this way for 50, 60 years by taxi cab companies. There's no way that's going to work. That's not going to work. They're going to need to do this. They're going to need to do that. Well, guess what? None of those people knew what they was talking about. And the people who invested in Uber and Lyft and Turo, they're now all multimillionaires and billionaires because they were able to see past, what the traditional way of doing business was. Uber faced skepticism from investors, car companies, and the taxi industry when it was first started out. Investors were skeptical of Uber, car companies. When Uber executives visited car companies and auto loan financiers, they were initially skeptical and asked, Uber? Who are you guys? Aren't you the town car company? Taxi industry. Uber faced opposition from the taxi industry, which was entrenched and had not changed in decades. Uber's co-founders, Gary Kemp and Travis Kalanick, came up with the idea for Uber after they were unable to find a cab after a tech conference in Paris. They wanted to create a way to book transportation directly from a smartphone. So, if we're facing skepticism by people in the trucking industry, guess what? We're in good company. We are in great company. We are in great company because that means that they see that what we're doing can upset the status quo. And that's what Uber did. These are companies that have the potential to be game changers. And when you have the potential to be game changer, you have the potential to make people who invest in your company in the beginning a lot of money. You have the potential to create multimillionaires and billionaires. So yeah, if people out there are skeptical of Easy Lease, hey, that puts us in great company. We are in great company because People call Uber a scheme. They call Uber, it just can't be. The taxi cab company brought up all type of legal, lawsuits and everything. And because they went through all that and proved that it could be done, and proved that it was legal, and proved that it could make more money than all the taxi cabs combined. Now they have paved the way for Lyft that came shortly after that. That paved the way for Turo, which I had 3 of my cars listed with Turo. Had my Jaguar listed with Turo. Had my Cadillac SUV listed with Turo. And I had my BMW, our BMW convertible listed with Turo. And this is where I got the idea for Easy Lease. Because I figured if I'm making $70 to $110 a day on my Jaguar, if people are renting out my BMW convertible for like $130 to $150 a day, and they're renting out the Cadillac SUV for $90 to $110 a day. And I was in the trucking, and I'm thinking, why hasn't somebody done this with commercial vehicles? That's where I got the idea from. Easy Lease is just a commercial version of Turo. Peer-to-peer. Ride sharing. All right. All right, everybody. Look. I hope y'all have enjoyed the little impromptu schedule. This was not scheduled. I was planning on doing an 8:15 p.m. where I'm going to be showing, how people who are leasing the trucks or renting the trucks through Easy Lease are going to be able to make money. I'm going to be making a lot of money. I'm going to be on the load board tonight at 8:15. I'm going to be showing how these drivers can make money. I'm going to be showing how Easy Lease is different, how those drivers have complete control. And really that's what we are selling. We are selling independence. We are selling control. We are selling offering guys who are driving trucks the ability to be able to walk away from the companies that are not paying them a whole bunch of money and telling them where to go, when to go, making them run how they want them to run, making them pull the freight that they want to pull. We are giving that power back to the truck drivers. We are giving them the power to run, to find, run their own freight. We are giving them the ability to make money. Because they can't make money running for somebody else. They can't make money running on somebody else's authority. They really can't make money running on these lease ownership programs where and they say, well, your reason why so much money is coming out is because you're paying for your truck. Well, who needs to pay for a truck for 3 to 4 years and you own it when you can run on the Easy Lease and make, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 and buy yourself 2 or 3, 5 freaking trucks at the end of the year? Why? Because you have the same control and independence as an owner-operator who goes out there and buys his own truck and runs under his own authority the way he wants to run, how he wants to run, when and where he wants to run, and grab the freight that he wants to run. And because Easy Lease is a peer-to-peer ride-sharing platform and not a trucking company, we can make this happen and not have all the expenses or any of the, requirements or credentials that we need to do as a trucking company. Now, once you grasp that, if you can grasp the concept of peer-to-peer ride sharing, then you can grasp the concept of Easy Lease, and you can come to the conclusion that it is a great investment at the pre-seed funding stage. All right, for those of you who like this and you think that, Easy Lease is one of those companies that you want to really, really take a look at and you want to invest in, go to myeasylease.com or contact me at Calvin Butler at myeasylease.com or give me a call, 866-973-6445. Let me put my my information here for you. Put my information here for you. Y'all give me a second. Let me find my information here. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to give you a link to the information. Give me a second. I'll find it. I will find it. There we go, right here. All right. Interested parties can contact me. Interested parties can contact me. I'm putting it here pasting it in. Got my Skype, all that stuff in. Give me a second. And let me put my email in for you all. Give you all my email address. This is Calvin Butler at myeasylease.com. And here comes my email address right now. There you go. Okay. I am going to be, I'm working on creating a way for you all to actually go to the site and you can invest via the site. You'll be able to click on it and be able to pay right there on the site. In some cases, I think you can pay with Afterpay and things like that for the lowest investment level. When you get above $25,000, you're not going to be able to process that through the site. You're going to have to, if you're one of those investors who want to become a principal shareholder, and principal shareholders are people who have voting rights, people who own more than 10%. The company, own at least 10% of the company. If you're one of those people and you're getting, a $50,000 investment or $100,000 investment, if you're one of those people, you're going to have to do wire transfers. But you're going to have to contact me personally, either through phone or email or whatever makes you do Skype. We can get in contact and then we can make arrangements for you to become, an investor. And then when we file our articles of incorporation, everybody who is a investor in the pre-seed funding round, they'll be listed on the articles of incorporation with your percentage of ownership. And then after that, we will create our shares, 500 million shares. 60% of those shares will go to the owners. And based on your percentage of ownership, that's how many shares, that's the percentage of those shares you'll be gifted at that time. So look, people, I, I, I get it. Everybody is not going to grasp this concept because this is the trucking industry where people are kind of used to doing things, the way they used to doing them. And it's been done this way for, damn near 100 years. I understand that. I get it. It's hard for people in trucking to grasp the idea of peer-to-peer ride sharing and some of the concepts that people have proven to be viable and be valuable and be, doable, like Uber, Lyft, and Turo. With any type of thing, someone has to be the first. Someone has to be the first. Easily is the first. And by being the first, you tend to be the most profitable, the most successful. You tend to create the most millionaires and billionaires from being the first in doing that thing. Well, guess what? Easily is the first. Now, I don't know why that gentleman, has in his head that, maybe it's something personal against me. Maybe he thinks I shouldn't be able to come up with that type of idea. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I'm not making any accusations like he did. I'm just saying, it is what it is. But I'm more than just a dumb trucker. Before I got into trucking, I was a mortgage broker. Okay, I deal in real estate. I've been creating business models, since I left the homeless shelter. Started my first business at a homeless shelter. That's right. 2009, 2008, 2009, I was homeless. Lost my home doing the mortgage industry crash because I was a mortgage broker and had everything tied up in that. Lost my home, lost my business, lost all my money. Everything. Wound up homeless for 18 months, and I built my way back up, as you can see, through creating business models, selling some business models, some successful business models that I created and sold to people, and over the years. And I started my own business from a homeless shelter. So, and when I went into trucking, I became very successful in trucking, both as a company driver with Covenant Transport, as an owner operator. Then, shortly after that, I created and started my own freight logistics vocational school, private vocational school here in Tallahassee, Florida, the RBBS Logistics Learning Centers. Made more than $500,000 doing that. So they would do, acquire my home and, and things. And so I know what I'm doing. I may look like a dumb trucker, I know, but I know what I'm doing. There's actually something up here. Okay, believe it or not, there's something up here. And and for those of you who feel like what I'm doing is going to be something great, I welcome you to come take a look at Easy Lease. Contact me if you want to discuss it, if you want to talk about it. Uh, you know, I'm pulling all nighters talking to people from outside the country via Skype because they seem to be the one who are most interested in this opportunity. But it is what it is. All right, everybody. Thank you all. I appreciate y'all for joining me. Thank you all again. I will see you all back here at 8:15 p.m. for the Easy Lease projected earnings for lease operators using Easy Lease. Thank you all, and y'all have a great day. Bye, everybody.